how things are going, and we'll open it up for any questions if anyone has any questions.
Well, I've been on for a number of years. And one thing, I don't have expertise in all the ins and outs of how things work. But one of the things that I think I've certainly learned a lot, I have to say, and it's just been an honor to participate and be a part of what I think has been an extremely great experience with Bill and his team and all that's going on with the Water Authority, and how thorough people are, how dedicated people are. And also from my standpoint, I'm a realtor. So I have brought a lot of people into the city. And it's really, I think, been, as far as my experience goes, it's been great to see how well run that board is and how well run the Water Authority is, and how great the water is. Because I am outside of the city right now, and I have to tell you, when I've been in the city for over 30 something on years. So you don't know what you've got until you miss it. And
Right.
I am really starting to see how wonderful our water is. And, what a blessing I think the city, has with such a team like Bill and the board in providing a service for everyone. And it's a great service. So I'd like to continue. I'd like to continue as the eyes and ears of just, the plain John Doe, just folks that want to know what's going on and how things are, and my contribution is probably a contribution from the standpoint of just the ordinary person wanting to make sure that we have a well-run system, that our rates are not going to skyrocket, and and that we can feel secure about the fact that we're not going to be like a city like Detroit. So I've enjoyed my experience. I'd like to continue for a little while longer while I can.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And I'll open it up for any questions. Council members, I can't see you, so one at a time, if you just want to speak up. Does anybody have any questions?
Johnny.
Hi, Cecile. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Been a long time. Good, good.
I
Thanks.
know.
I have a quick question. Actually, over the holiday, I had a constituent asking about the fees that the Water Authority charges. So if it's an unoccupied property, they felt that unlike Med Ed, that if the property is unoccupied, you don't pay for fees or connection fees if no one's occupying the property. What are your thoughts regarding that?
Well, I think like any other service, we have to participate. It's almost like a social system, whether you are getting the service or you're not getting the service, it's almost like a pooling of such, where we all have to share the expense of running something. And I just feel that whether we get the service or not, if we're going to keep rates at a certain level, we all have to participate in that share. It's almost like a social, like a social system. We all have to participate in the share of expense, because it is an expense to run the Water Authority. whether we actually get the water or we don't get the water. We're going to get the water at some point, and it is an expense, and things have to be maintained. I mean, you've got to have a flow of money coming in to maintain services. So that's my answer to that.
All right. Any additional questions, members of council?
I have one, but Cecilia, I'm new to city council and I'm still pretty new to getting adjusted to everybody's position. So y'all please excuse me. When I ask what is your position?
Oh, I'm just a board member. I'm a board member on the Reading Water Authority, just a board member. And then my other role is a realtor. I'm a realtor with United Real Estate.
Oh, how many years have you been on the board?
At least two solid years, maybe 2.5, something like that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I hope to get to better know you outside of city council.
That would be nice.
All right. Thank you, Brianna. Any additional questions, anyone?
Jeff, this is
Yeah.
Marcia.
Go ahead, Marcia, then Donna. Yep.
Okay, and I apologize. I can't see everyone's hands because I'm on my phone. Just Cecilia, I bring this up every time we interview a candidate for the Water Authority because many municipalities have moved towards privatization. What would you do if you felt you heard rumblings of someone trying to do that with the authority?
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I think that's all I'll say about that. I'm not a fan
Okay.
of that. No.
Okay, we just need to know who our allies are because it is a business that unfortunately privatization has occurred and we can't pretend that we might not be immune to those efforts. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it for many different reasons. You know, this is a public service to people, and when you start getting into something like that, it gets corporate, and it gets beyond what I think what the service should be, and money plays a greater role, you know, in the whole operation, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan.
Okay, thank you.
Donna?
Hi, Cecile. Good to see
Hi.
you. Well, I
Yes,
don't see
Donna.
you, but it's good to virtually sort of see you, at least talk with you. So first of all, thank you for your service over all these years, because you might be formally on water, but I know you've done a lot for the city and for Center Park and all those areas. So thank you for that. What would you say would be the biggest or the foremost challenge right now for the Water Authority that you see as a board member? Do you see it as the aging infrastructure? Do you see it as, are there any personnel issues in terms of filling?
Oh, there's no personnel.
In terms of staffing that more people need to be hired. I mean, what sort of things do you see?
Infrastructure is number one, because, you know, so much of these lines are 100 years old and plus, and like any other city all over the country, infrastructure is something that we really need to pay attention to. And of course, the Biden administration has been Biden administration is challenged with this, actually, you know, in trying to get monies into entities so that we can upgrade. And upgrade comes with a cost. And then everyone is concerned about, okay, what is that cost? And how much of that cost is going to affect, you know, our pocketbooks on a daily basis. And so the challenge is to upgrade, to deal with monies that are, you know, flowing in with the infrastructure, the monies that are coming in for infrastructure from the Biden administration, from the federal government and so forth. But the other challenge is to keep the rates, at a level where people are not grumbling, because the rates have been, I must say, the rates have been kept at a minimum. We have not raised rates. And we are fortunate enough to make enough money, and things are flowing well enough that we can keep them that way for a good while, from what I can see. But you never know what's going to happen, to change that. So I think that, rates and infrastructure are really key here.
Thank you, Cecile. Again, good talking with you.
Same.
All right, council, any other members have any questions or comments? Okay. If not, Cecile, we'll probably be making, we don't have that on the agenda tonight, but probably in 2 weeks, formally making a reappointment for the position, and we
Yeah,
appreciate.
Jahani has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Jahani. I can't see your hand, so you're gonna have to speak
Okay,
up.
no, just before you conclude, Jeff, I just wanted to thank Cecile for volunteering her time and for serving. We always appreciate it when people from our community obviously step up and participate and become active members in different boards, authorities, and commissions. So thank you, Cecile.
Oh, well, thank you. I think it's an honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you again, Cecile, and we look forward to your continued service. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Right.
evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, council, we're going to move on then to the next item on our agenda, and that's going to be an update on the sidewalk repair and replacement program. And I believe Abe or Jamal or Frank are going to speak to this specific topic, so I will turn it over to them.
Yes,
Thank
Council
you.
President, Frank Dombowski has prepared a PowerPoint that he's going to share, so he'll be able to share his screen, and he's taking the lead on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Knowing that we have 10 minutes allocated for this subject, I only have 4 slides, and I know that council's looking for an update on this program. And I thought what I would do is just spend a minute or two just to go over what the 2019 council ordinance was. So for all the new people from 2019, members of council, members of administration, and public who are reviewing this, so they know what we're referring to. So I'm just going to go very briefly. I'm going to share my screen now to this very brief PowerPoint. So let's see here. Okay, it looks like you see that sidewalk repair and replacement grant pilot program. Great. Okay. So I'm going right to the second slide, and the purpose of our second slide here this evening is just to go over very briefly in 30 seconds to a minute of what exactly was passed in 2019 from City Council. So the background, as we understand it, is that the maintenance and repair of sidewalks obviously are necessary to protect the health and safety of residents. And we all know that the sidewalks in front of our properties are a responsibility of the property owner. So what's the issue? Well, the issue is these sidewalk repairs over time have become very expensive. And over the years, and especially recently, the city has received many complaints about sidewalks in need of repair. So when we go out to the property owner, we give them a notice of violation. There seems to be a lot of, it's very costly to get these sidewalks repaired. So City Council felt through the previous administration that maybe we could put a pilot program together to assist homeowners with the financial burden of repairing their sidewalks. So once again, it's a pilot program. So once this program's over, we can go back and evaluate to see if we would want to or can expand further. But the emphasis here is family homeowners. This isn't for rental properties or commercial properties. These are single family home owning homes. Now, obviously the goal here is to well-maintain sidewalks that contribute to the safety as well as improve the overall walkability of the neighborhood. Obviously, we want good sidewalks for those reasons and others. $400,000 from the general fund has been assigned for this project, so we do have funding for that. since 2019. So I'm going to briefly go over the implementation of the program, and Jamal is with us this evening. So when I get finished with this, if there's technical questions or more follow-up, he's kind of co-presenting with me. So very briefly, how do we implement this program? For those who already know, we received 49 applications about 2 years ago. So currently, and it's important to know that this pilot program is not receiving new applications. What we're doing is taking the 49 applications that we've already previously received, have a staff committee to review these applications again for completeness and accuracy. With the ordinance that council passed in 2019, it created eligibility matrix, which I don't have included in the PowerPoint, but a very detailed assessment of prioritizing who would be able to receive funding. And that's, I believe, attachment 2 on the 2019 ordinance. Priority applicants are giving to individuals who've already received a notice of violation, because if you receive the notice of violation, it's obviously a very serious matter. But also, if you're collaborating with your neighbors on both sides, the 2 adjacent property owners, and they too applied and have the same need, a priority will be given there because you get more impact where you have 3 adjacent homes together repairing sidewalks if they qualify, and you have, you know, a lot of a concentrated impact. So when applications are approved, what happens? Well, you first have to the applicant has to sign a hold harmless agreement with the city. And then what the city is going to do is provide a list of city certified eligible contractors. So we will advertise this to people, companies that do concrete work. They'll have to get certified, meaning they have to make sure all their permits are up to date. They understand how this program works, and that also, like when they do the work, we will pay them when the work is completed following our criteria. So there's no cost to the resident, and we will let them pick off the list. So there could be a couple city certified eligible contractors, and the homeowner has a right to pick who that contractor is, as long as they're on our list, in order to repair the sidewalk and replace. It's important that the contractor is certified because we have to make sure that it's getting done properly. We're not doing tree removal curbs. We're not doing ADA ramp replacements. If it's a brick sidewalk, it has to be concrete. So we have to make sure the contractor is very aware of our requirements. So currently, a staff committee is being formed to review the applications. At this point, I'm going to stop and I'm going to refer if Jamal or if there's questions on this process, because the next slide is just talking about future steps, and future steps are very simple. After we complete this pilot program, what do we learn from it, and do we want to continue it or expand it? And just a quick preview that the administration hopes to, in the near future, provide a proposal to City Council for their consideration to utilize $2 million in sidewalk improvements from the ARP funds. But there's a lot more to that. That's going to be a separate presentation when we talk about ARP funds. So it's not directly related to this, but it's also it's also kind of related because it's about sidewalks. So we don't want to confuse the issue. But there's more to follow on that subject. Today, we're just focusing on the existing program. So Jamal, or if there's any questions from the body at this point on how this program is supposed to be implemented and how we go forward. So I don't know if Jamal wants to say something first, if I missed something, and then obviously questions will be entertained.
I just want to compliment you on your presentation, Frank. I think you've done an amazing job, and all the information you provided are accurate. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions from the board at this point.
All right, well, thank you, guys. Council members, speak up first. Who would like to go first with any comments?
This is Johanny, Jeff. I
Go ahead.
believe, I have a question. Was this money a grant? Because I recall that it was, the city was issued this money back in 2017. Was it a grant?
Councilwoman Savannah Prayers, I am unable to answer that question, but I will certainly find out this information for you.
I can answer. This is not a grant at all. City Council set aside $400,000 of fund balance savings to earmark for a sidewalk replacement and repair.
Are you saying that City Council earmarked this back in 2017? Because I know that that's when the money was awarded for sidewalk repair.
This is 2019 with the
This is
resolution.
2019. I don't know anything about 2017.
So when I came on board in 2019, the conversation took place about the sidewalk repair money. And the money apparently, or the grant award, I don't recall, but if we can do some research, was issued back in 2017. And in 2019, when Mr. Hunter was the CD person, is when the conversations began regarding sidewalk repair and then creating some type of pilot program. I see Linda nodding her head. Am I correct in what I'm recalling?
You
Right.
are.
So then again, I need clarity. Was it an award from some place? Was it a grant? You know, do we still have the funding available based on, you know, that back in 2017?
Honey, I can help with that answer. I probably have more history on this than some of the administration, so would you mind if I answered?
Go for it, Marcia, if you don't mind. And if
Yeah,
you-
it is not a grant, because I think that's a very good question as far as whether it's a grant, because grants are time limited and they need to be expended. It was set aside. Now, I think what needs to be looked at, was it out of capital or was it out of the general fund budget?
I think it was at
Okay.
general fund.
I accurately
Yeah.
answered. It was a set aside from the general fund of $400,000.
Great,
It is still set aside
great.
for that specific purpose. It is restricted under fund balance. The money has not gone anywhere.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I also have a question, Jeff.
Go ahead.
I'm confused about this, the staff committee under the previous orientation of this.
Mhm.
Two members of council, it had been Jahani and myself, were to be part of that
Right.
committee, and one of the reasons was for council to have a role in that, so it wasn't purely administration. I would request that that committee be formed to honor that prior composition, because I think we felt it was extremely important that
Mhm.
council be represented on that committee. Felt it was extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough.
The staff committee is focused on looking at whether the area that we are going to do any repairs falls under historical reviews, whether we will be able to replace and remove some of the blocks and the slates and put concrete there. In addition to that, we will be reaching out to the tree shade committee as well, specifically Lister Kissinger, to find out how can we replace some of these trees and address the ADA around. With regard to your commitment as well as Councilwoman Spada Fraser, I believe we have completed a good portion of the list. We will be more than happy to schedule another meeting with you to go over the list again once we verify who is qualified for this. One of the efforts that we are going through it right now is actually our staff reviewing these reviewing these applications to make sure that there has not been any change in ownership, meaning that a house being sold and now it's rental, that will kick it out of the list and will not become qualified, or the situation with the neighbors' sidewalk have deteriorated. Once we get to that, we will come back to you and request a meeting so that you will be able to provide us with your input in this matter.
All
I
right,
think
additional
the
comments?
I think the premise was that the final decision would be made with council involvement in that committee, correct, Jahani?
Can that happen?
I'm sorry, there was a,
Because I'm also interested in on being on this project as well. Sorry to interrupt. Jamal, when can we sit down with the project leaders for this, and or will we be included or just CC'd in emails?
to answer your
Okay.
question, Brianna, what we will do is that the At this point in time, we are gathering all the information regarding the status of the 49 applications and regarding the status of the sidewalk altogether. And we would like to verify with our Public Works that if there is an area that needs to be addressed and it has an ADA ramp, we can actually either shelf this or go without replacing the ADA ramp. Once we get the technicalities all together, you are more than welcome to join Johnny and Donna in this, but that is something that basically a council decision, not mine, as a matter of fact. So we're open to meet with anyone. However, the decision is to the city council.
I believe the decision was 2 council members. If council wants to replace either Jahani or me, that is council's decision on that.
This is Frank. Could I offer a suggestion? If I'm listening to this correctly, it sounds like there's 2 layers going on here. It sounds like there's a technical committee that has to go and verify the facts on the application, such as, are these still current homeowners? Is the need there? And I believe it sounds like the staff committee could be more of the technical committee. And then there's the approval committee, which includes council. So all the fact finding is complete. Here are the facts. And then the approvals are done. So maybe there's 2 layers here. If I'm following that, that may be able to probably bring some more clarity. Just a suggestion.
I have my hand up, Jeff. May I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I recall we had the 49 applicants. I just want to understand the process, the timeline with dates, please. When are we reaching out to these applicants to let them know that the program is still available, right? Because I'm assuming circumstances have changed for some folks. Like you mentioned, some maybe properties that are rented now and are not currently owner occupied. And also, are we going to remain with those 49 applicants, or are we going to reopen the pool for more applicants?
Very good questions. I really respect your questions, Johnny. The very first thing, as I go back to what Frank said, and that is the technical committee at this point in time will go over the 49 applications to see if there are any changes, particularly with ownership. But if there hasn't been anything, then what we will look at that point is to see whether our funds allow us to cover this area and be able to pay for that. If in fact the cost estimate is projected to meet the proposed repairs, then in that case, the 49 applicants will go to you for evaluations and receive a final approval to go ahead with this. If we find out that there is a 10%, 15% reductions in the number of listed there, then in this case, we'll come back to you to open up this list one more time so that we can add on to the applications and see if we can qualify them and vet them very quickly. So currently, what we would like to do, 3 things. A, verify that the home ownership is still intact and it has not changed. B, make sure that the sidewalk repairs are exactly as we estimated it and it did not deteriorate to a different level in there. And C, make sure that if there are any changes with regard to the trees or to the ADA ramp, then we will be able to address that situation as quick as possible. Once we have that, we'll revise the cost estimate, and we are going to advertise seeking small contractors, qualified contractors, as soon as possible. So we will have an order of magnitude for the price, a unit price, and that will give us an estimate of what would it take for the repairs. Once we get to that point, I'm hoping that we'll come back to the board and request another meeting so that we can go over the list And then we will proceed sometimes mid-March when the weather gets better.
All right, additional comments. All right, so, yeah, my comments are this, I don't know, listening to all this, it's really become, I mean, I think this thing is about 3 years old. I don't know if it's a program we're gonna ever be able to implement on an ongoing basis. I know the intent was good. Our intent was to add a little bit every year to the pot. But I think you guys have to assess it and decide if it's something we're gonna be able, because it is a lot of moving parts. And for us to manage all those applications, to get the contractors, and maybe there's a better model to deal with this. I don't know that exact model. I think of Kim Talbot's area as well. I know she's got her hands full as well. But I just ask that we just do an overall assessment and decide if it's something we can do. Sometimes we take on too much. I think at the time it was a good intent. I think it's still a good intent, but it just may, sometimes we have too many balls in the air at the same time, and then we don't get really good with any one of them because we're trying to manage too much. So I'm not saying that's the case, but it's just a challenging process. So,
Mr. I'm sorry.
So go ahead, Jamal.
Mr. President, I saw a message, I think it was from Linda, about the timeline. And if I may address this with your permission, sir. The timeline for this is actually, we are going to have the information recertified or vetted again by mid-February. And then at that point in time, we would like to actually see, subject to how many contractors interested in the job, we would like to receive this information. So I'm hoping we will have at least 3 or 4 small concrete contractors who can come in and show their interest in that. If in fact all this materializes, then probably we will be able to develop an accurate cost estimate by the end of February, beginning of March, and that's the time when we will go back to you with our revised list and get your final approval on this. Once that's happened, then I would say that the latter part of March, beginning of April, when the weather becomes more friendly towards concrete installations, we will start at that time, assuming that we will still have 49 properties. Then that should not take us more than 2 to 3 months to complete this. So by end of June or July, we should be done with this project.
Okay, any additional comments or questions, anyone?
Yeah, it's me, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I get concerned because, again, money was allocated in 2017 and the year is 2022. And this is, relatively speaking, a small project in comparison to all the major projects we have going on in the city. And I always get concerned that if we can't tackle this small item, how do we expect them to tackle all these larger capital improvement projects we have listed? Second, well, in regards to the sidewalk repair specific program, in terms of identifying vendors, are we simultaneously identifying vendors while we are revetting the applicants?
That is correct, yes.
This is Frank. Just to answer your first question, Councilwoman. In regards to, we'll have to do a little bit more research because we're just not aware of this 2017 allocation because from the last administration, we do know that in 2019, $400,000 was put, as Jamar said, in a restricted fund. So we're working off of that premise. There's general fund money from 2019, but we'll do further research to see what 2017 is about because I know we're not aware of that. And not making excuses, but when you have a different administration, some of the information didn't really transition over. So we'll get some more clarity on that. In regards to the delay, obviously there was a delay. The conceptions program started before we got into this administration, but we obviously are responsible to follow through with this. Last year, we had a lot of challenges with contractors, with street paving, construction, because of COVID. Construction projects stopped for months. And unfortunately, when COVID first emerged in 2020, it started in March, started the season, and it went into the following year. So during the high peak construction times, we had a slowdown in these types of activities because of the backlog. But as Jamal has shared with us this evening, we have a timeline in place this year to be able to accomplish it. And as Council President suggested, do we continue this type of project? Do we take on more? We don't know the answer to that, but we hope to have recommendations after this pilot program is completed to be able to come back with thoughtful considerations on if this is something we could do in the future. Should we, shouldn't we, and how we would go about it. So we plan to follow through with what you're suggesting.
And again, if I may follow up on Frank's plans in there, this is a program, as you may recall, when we started this back in 2020, it was focused towards creating opportunities for small business contractors within the city. And that is really the goal we are trying to accomplish. Okay, so we want to work with small contractors, a 1-2 employees, an owner and an apprentice, something like that, to give them an opportunity to help us with the work and become part of the city's beautification program.
Okay, are there any additional comments relevant to this specific issue?
I have one question, and then I think we can end on this note. And I think my question is for anybody here. Where did that number come from? Was that something that was agreed upon by City Council in 2017? Can we break down the number? Like, why did we pick that number of 400,000?
I can answer that. Brianna, I think at the time we felt that that would be, a sufficient amount, to put aside to do a decent amount of sidewalks. So it was arbitrary. There wasn't a whole lot of, research or anything else done behind it. We thought it would be a decent amount based on our discussion with the administration at the time.
That does, I know this, I know there's a lot that goes into contracting and employees and such, but that number, it seems high to me. That doesn't seem high to anybody else. That's like a really, I think that's a really high number for only 49 applicants.
Can I make a comment, Jeff?
Sure.
Okay, and I think I can understand when you see that kind of number, it looks high. However, if you've ever gone through the experience of having to replace sidewalks and the cost of it, and the costs are only escalating from the first time we set aside, it can be as much as $500 just for one block of concrete to have that replaced. So that when you really look at the number of sidewalks and the square footage, it may come out to that amount. It's sad, because then it shows you that in order to do everything that's done in the city, how much it would actually cost. But, it's the reality. And I don't know whether anyone could provide that information to Brianna, just so she would have the exact cost, the normal or average cost of replacing a sidewalk.
All right. Are there additional comments? Okay, well, thank you, Frank and Jamal, for the update. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. It's reorganization matters. I think we've already stepped through the vice president appointment, and I believe we have that on the agenda this evening for Johanny. Does anybody have any comments on that? All right, the next item to discuss is the city clerk appointment. Every 2 years, we do the reappointment of the city clerk. Does anybody have any comments on that specific topic? And again, just speak up. I can't see everybody. Go ahead. Is that Marcia? Yep.
Yeah, Jeff, my comment is just as a normal part of the process, we also need to do an evaluation. So we can set that mechanism to make that happen. That's on us as city council to ensure that the employees under our direct supervision, which is the city clerk, are evaluated on a regular basis.
Yep, and we're going to be discussing that in the coming weeks. It's on the agenda, I just don't know which specific week, and I got to have a follow-up with Mike as well. Additional comments on the city clerk appointment?
I do, Jeff. It's Donna.
Go ahead.
I just
Donna.
think Linda does an exemplary job, and I'm so glad we have her. So I would certainly move for reappointment.
All right, are there any other comments at this time on that specific topic? All right, if not, Donna, do you want to speak to the ratifying of the BCTV agreement? Donna?
Frank may want to jump in on this. This is the franchise agreement. Is that correct, what you're talking about? Jeff?
Yeah, well, Linda, the BCTV
No.
agreement.
It's the agreement about the in your district programs.
Oh, okay, the policy.
Right.
Okay.
So everyone will need to
Okay, I'm
re-sign,
sorry.
execute that.
Right, and
Right.
that's very, very important to, you know, to look at that, understand it, and sign on to that, because we are all obliged to present ourselves in the best possible apolitical way, not taking sides on issues or candidates, things like that. So please, you know, please avail yourself of that and check it and look at it and sign it as you do your programs. I think Fred has his hand up.
No, I almost did raise my hand and then I accidentally hit it. I apologize.
Okay, it's
Alright.
there. Okay.
So this is.
Linda,
yeah,
is there
this
anything
is-
else to that?
No, only I'll be sending the copy out through DocuSign to get everyone's signature, including the mayor's.
Okay, perfect. And it's
Linda,
so, it's so important that we adhere to that, because these are the, you know, the airwaves that are paid, or the channel that is paid through via public funds. We cannot take positions on candidates or issues or self-promote ourselves in a candidate sort of way. So please, please, and Maria should get one too, right, Linda? Maria will get
Yes.
one as auditor.
Donna, may I ask you a question? I understand that we might understand what that means because we've had experience, but I think maybe it would be helpful for specific examples to be given. I don't know whether it's tonight at the meeting, just so people understand what it means to promote yourself. Okay, that where are you crossing the line?
Well, certainly from a politics standpoint, if you are a candidate or plan to be a candidate for something, that's not a part of what the BCTV or the MAC airwaves are for, other than a candidates forum, which is hosted by the League of Women Voters. If there's a controversial topic, say like we had the trash topic some time ago, that is a public referendum kind of thing, that is not any of our place to bring someone pro or con onto a program with us to promote that. And that was really the genesis of developing a policy, because that had occurred. And, you know, and I'll be candid, I had called BCTV immediately to not re-air that particular program, because we had a person in elected position who was presenting and bringing forward essentially someone taking a side on that issue, which was to come up for public. Just can't do it. Publicly funded airwaves.
Thank
All
you.
right, any other questions or comments on ratifying the BCTV agreement?
Jeff, Johanny here, more of a comment, and I'm not sure if this would be helpful or if we may have it. Do we have like an at a glance do's and don'ts for running your show on BCTV?
I think the policy covers that pretty much, Johanny, and also each producer, everyone who does a show is asked by BCTV, whether it's on BCTV or on MAC, to sign an agreement that goes over this. And it's you know, very easily accessible. We'll make sure Linda will send out our agreement, but there's also separate ones that can be signed.
Donna, to follow up,
Again, there are rarely issues. it's a rarity, correct, Linda, over all the years, it's a rarity that has come up, but actually it did come up twice. I have to be corrected, in the last
Right.
administration also came up from the administration.
Okay, additional comments on the BCTV agreement? Okay, if there are no comments, I'm going to move on to the committee of the whole structure as we discussed in our last meeting, or our orientation meeting. So we've set a schedule for the first Monday of every month as the administrative committee, being finance and HR, and the public safety committees. Those two committees being covered on the first Monday, and then on the third Monday, the public works and the community and economic development committees to be covered. What Linda and I have done is we've taken all the open committee of the whole agenda topics and we've scheduled it out through all these committees, and I'd say the next 10 to 12 weeks. Currently reviewing that with Abe, and then we're going to send that out to everybody for any feedback. I think it's pretty clean, but most of the topics that you saw during our discussion in the orientation meeting have been scheduled out, I think, through mid-May. Some of them a little sooner than others, obviously. So that's the committee structure we agreed upon within the committee as a whole. And just want to see if there's any comments or questions at this point.
I have one, Jeff. I recall, and please, the body correct me if I'm wrong, but did we speak about allocating a separate day just for ARP? I don't know if we said Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's been scheduled. Linda, what's that exact date? I know we did review it with Abe, and the
I
first
believe
one's-
that's February 22nd, I believe.
Oh, my birthday.
So
We're going to have more than one. We're going to have continuing, correct?
Monthly.
Okay.
Yep.
Monthly.
Okay, any other questions on those structures? And I hope that we'll get.
I just want to
that.
thank you, Jeff, for the work you put into this, and you and Linda for getting this organized. I did have a discussion, and I think Gordon was contacted, and Jamar, as far as what reports will be presented, which ones will be presented monthly or quarterly as far as finance. So a list will be provided then, so we understand what reports, what the meaning of the reports is, and why they're presented in that kind of time frame.
Yeah, and so you know, I did go over them with Linda as well, and I believe she's going to review them with you. So
I'll just
Okay.
piggyback real quick. If I have a topic that I would like to bring to the body,
sure.
So I am aware that I believe I have up to 40. I think from once I take the position, I have 45 days to request a look at our budget. Is that am I Jeff? Am I correct?
I think the charter can be open. I'm sorry, let me, Brianna. I think the budget can be reopened. It's spelled out in the charter. I think you need 4 members of council to do that. Am I right, Linda?
I think it says specifically that. I think it's, let me just open that. I sent that out earlier.
So I have the section. I have the section. Okay, where it says it, and it doesn't say anything about needing a specific amount, but that I have up to, there's a 45-day. I have a time limit. So
After the start of the fiscal year.
yeah, I am interested in reviewing the city budget and reviewing that once again. Michael, I think I seen somebody's hand. Was it Jamar?
Can I ask if there's something specific, Counselor, that you'd like to look into?
No, not at the moment, but I am researching this as we're speaking. So I know that I didn't want to spring this on you guys later on, but it is something that is it is a near and dear to my heart. So I do want to, like, there's a lot to look at, from taxes to so much. So I do want to make aware that that's something that I would like to bring to the table bring to the table probably sooner than later.
Jeff, could I clarify?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this section 906 of the charter indicates that council has the option of reopening the budget. So because it says council, excuse me, and not a council member, it would need a majority vote of council just to begin the process of opening the budget. With that being said, you also do have a pretty short timeline at this point. It says that it needs 45 days from the start of the fiscal year, which I believe would basically take you to February 14th to do so. And in my opinion, that would require the actual passage of the ordinance of a new budget within that time frame.
yeah, I don't have the wording in front of me. So can you just read that to us, Mike? I just want to make sure Bree's clear that section 906.
Sure. It says, notwithstanding any other provisions of this article, when the fiscal year of the city is the calendar year and any year following a municipal election year, the council may, within 45 days after the start of the fiscal year, revise the budget and tax levies adopted by the previous council. The procedures for adopting the revised budget shall be in accordance with sections 905 and 906, with the time periods adjusted to 45 days after the start of the fiscal year. Ordinances adopting a revised budget shall be effective as of the start of the fiscal year and shall rescind and replace the budget ordinance of the previous council. It is the intention of this charter that a new council in the year following a municipal election shall have the power to revise the budget and tax levies adopted by the prior council.
Right. Okay, so yeah, Bree, I mean, it puts us, the word within the 45 days, it really speaks to what you're saying, Mike, that all that would need to be done within the 45 days, including opening and passing the ordinances via the budget via ordinances. That's a lot. We'd almost have to have opened it right in the beginning of the year. But the other side of that, Bree, is you need 4 members who are willing to reopen the budget. And typically, I think people are going to want to know if there's a specific item or two that stood out, why you wanted to do it. I'm not here to speak for everybody, but I can say we've never done it. I'm not saying we should never do it, but it sounds like something that's in place in case there was something pretty controversial through the budget process, say at the end of the year last year, that there would be a tool for new members that were coming in, said, no, we want to change that. They would come into the fray and open the budget right away and make the changes. It doesn't mean you can't try it. I'm not trying to deter you. I'm just trying to explain what's there. And if you have more questions, you can always spend some time with Mike and he can go over a deeper explanation of it as well.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, since Wesley isn't here, I think that it would behoove us to maybe wait until he's here to decide whether that's something that the city council would like to do.
Yeah, you can absolutely, if you talk to Wesley and you, again, talk, see if there's other members who have the willingness to do that and look at the timeline with Mike to see if it's even feasible. You know, and the other thing with the budget is if you look at the sections Mike referred to, there's, when council makes changes, if there's substantive changes, then it goes back to the mayor for resubmission and approval. There's a lot of steps involved in the budget process. When you make major changes, it requires going back through those steps. Just want to make you aware that we can't go over them all now, but wait for Wes and see what you guys come up with and talk to other members of council. And if there's a willingness, there's certainly a little bit of time.
Jeff, this is Marcia. I just wanted to clarify the timelines because I'm looking at the calendar and I just wanted to ask Mike, when you say, does this need to be done by an ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so really, don't you have to introduce an ordinance and let it sit over for 2 weeks before you can vote on it?
Yes.
Okay, so that we don't, this is our last council meeting Our next meeting, I believe, is on the 13th of February, which would be the meeting we would introduce it. So we would never be able to practically vote on it before the timeline. And I just think that should be something that for folks to get all their times in order. And it's a challenge when you're not used to dealing with this type of structure. I understand that as far as the process of introducing and putting, and when you can vote. Oh,
Yeah, we're not
and so
gonna,
Linda, you're saying the next regular meeting
14th.
is the
Right.
13th. So that would be the earliest we could introduce it. Am I correct?
well,
Unless we
guys,
did a special meeting.
Yeah, hold on a
Okay.
second. Yeah, you can do special meetings, you can do all kinds of things. I'm just gonna request that, if Bree talks to Wes and they want to do it, they find two other members of council who want to do it, and they go over the possible timelines with Mike, if that's what they want to consider. I would make sure you had 4 members of council first, if you do, and then talk to Mike about timelines. If there's a way of making it happen, then you look at it. So, but the first
Okay,
step would
gotcha.
be getting four members to agree to it.
Yeah,
So,
I have just a comment.
yeah.
Reopening the budget is a serious, serious matter. So if you're looking at it and you have something extremely serious to add, that's important, and you have to be candid and bring it out even before an ordinance. What is it? Should there be a tax increase? Is there something that is getting too much funding, shouldn't get enough funding? Be specific, be serious, public trust. It's not a guessing game. A lot of work and effort goes into this from our and his folks have put a lot in. Marcia is council. Finance chairs put a lot of time in. We all spent much time going over department by department by department by department, line by line by line. This isn't something to toy with. This is serious, serious stuff. So if you have serious, specific, concrete concerns, they have to be brought forward as soon as possible, as specifically as possible, and documented as to why.
And
Right.
and mind you, I wouldn't have brought it up if this isn't something that I think that I think is important and that I have been researching and looking into myself. With that said, I just thought to give you guys the heads up because I guess I'm still learning how to go about with these inquiries. So yeah.
Okay, so
I have a question. I plan on inquiring on that question and then seeing if there's anything maybe that we should have adjusted or was overlooked last year. Go ahead, Jim.
So, Council President, or Councilor Tyson, we make amendments to the budget all year long. I would highly encourage you to reach out to me by phone or email, and we can figure it out, whatever your inquiries are.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, if you get 4 members, again, Bree, want to adjust the budget, then you obviously have the ability to do that. So there's nothing wrong with trying to do that. And we'll go from there. But to stick on topic here this evening, I want to continue to get through this list so we can cover the rest of the items, but we do have a bunch of items yet. So any other comments on committee of the whole structure? Okay. All right, the next item is the, oh boy, here we go. I lost my page, is the ratifying council policy and procedure handbook. Is that on the agenda this evening, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, it is. All right. Comments or questions on that item, anyone?
It's Johanny, Jeff. I was reading through the handbook and I saw a section where it said that individual council can request to purchase insurance from the administration. Has that ever happened?
No.
Is that something that's available, feasible, accessible?
That's what we've been told before.
It's worth looking into if someone has that need.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would like to understand the process, you know, cost and things of the sort, because I read it in the handbook and it intrigued me.
All right, any additional comments on the handbook? Okay, if not, we'll move on to appointment of council members to the boards. First of all, there were only a couple boards where Lucine served as a primary. She did serve as an alternate on many boards. Our initial request was going to see if Brianna or Wes were interested in serving as alternates on those boards, and also what other areas of interest they had on all the boards. So A, we could limit the amount of changes we needed to make, but also made room for any requests that they may have had. Linda, did you get any feedback on Lucine's openings?
Only from Wes. He's interested in serving on the youth commission.
Okay, is that one that was opened up by Lucine or no?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay. And Brianna, have you had a chance to look at the list of openings that Lucine, that became open when Lucine left?
Yeah, I have. And I'm still, I'm still reviewing the information to see which one I'm the best fit for.
Okay, so Linda and I were talking earlier today. Next week's the 5th Monday of the week. I'd like to nail down, we were hoping to doing 2 things next week, going through all the boards and authority appointments, make sure we're all clear. Hopefully Wes will be on for that. And then also going over the committee of the whole agendas that we've mapped out.
Yeah, it's Donna. When we can speak to committees we're on or would like to step away from, and would you mind recognizing me then, please?
Yeah, I mean, you can do some of that now. Again, I think we were going to try to do that next week, but if you want to mention some now, we have time to go through that. So
respectfully, I'd like to step away from BCAP. I haven't been able to make any of the meetings. It's unfortunate. It's not fair to that group. So I would say that I will be stepping away from that. I would request respectfully to be appointed to Stadium Commission, since the stadium's in my district. I would like to do that, take Stratford there. So those are the 2 things that I would bring forward. I'm happy to stay on all the rest. As ex officio and Reading Area Transportation Study as the primary representative.
Are you an alternate on BCAT?
I think I'm a primary, and I apologize. Usually I have not been able to.
I'm on the BCAT board. That's why I'm asking.
I have not been able to attend, and I apologize.
I think you're an alternate there, so.
That's fine. I still haven't been able to attend, so I'm going to step away from that.
Okay. All right. So Linda, if you'll make note of that, we'll discuss it next week on Monday evening. Anybody else have anything they want to speak to right now regarding that?
Jeff, it's Johanny. So are we discussing or like where we're going to remain, if we want to switch, what we'd like to participate in? Are we going to have that type of discussion, or are we to assume that wherever we are right now is where we have to stay?
No. I think it's wide open. There's no, I think you should, in fact, you could share some of that right now, where you would, some of your thoughts right now on where you'd like to go and where you'd like to stay. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from discussing some of it now. And next week, we're going to have to spend some time and piece it all together. But I think we need everybody here to do that. So what are your thoughts now, Johnny? What do you like? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to stay?
I appreciate where I'm participating in the commissions that I'm participating in right now. I was just looking at the school district work group. I know it's been inactive, but I would love to participate in that if there's an opportunity, if it gets reinstated, as well
Okay.
as the downtown P3.
Right. All right, so next week, I think what we're gonna do is go through the entire list. We're gonna say, hey, you're on this. Do you want to stay there? Do you want to move? And then as we get to each board, everyone's gonna have to express their interest, and we're gonna have to figure out what we have room for. You know, it sounds like there's gonna be some changes, and then there's gonna be some stuff that's static, meaning we're just gonna keep it the way it is. So we need everybody to do that because it's gonna be a give and take, and be hard to do that without Wes here at this point. Any other
Jeff, this is
thoughts on-
Marcia.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a
Marcia.
question.
Mhm.
Okay, so 2 boards that I'm currently assigned to are having meetings this week where there may need to be votes taken. The Environmental Advisory Council and the Mount Penn Preserve. I wish to stay on both of those, but I just wonder from our solicitor whether it's okay if I haven't been reappointed, or do I have to not vote? What's my status?
Well, you want to take that, Fred?
Yeah, I think I'd have to look into that, and if you know the answer, God bless you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, but I mean, from a general perspective, your seat usually remains until a replacement has been appointed. So my initial guess would be you're still okay.
Okay, just wanted to clarify and not cause those organizations any grief if I wasn't, eligible to vote. Thank you.
All right, any additional thoughts from anybody at this time?
Hi,
So just to
Jeff.
be clear, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. This is Maria. May I have a few minutes, please?
Is it
Before you're going
relevant
to
to
the agenda review, I'm not going to take that long.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're done with this first.
Okay.
Let me make sure that we're okay with this topic. Okay, so everyone understands Monday night next week, we're going to go through all these boards. We'll see who's existing, who wants to stay from each board, who wants to leave, who would like to fill in a gap, and we'll get through it that way. So it makes sense when everybody's here to do that. All right, if there are no other comments on that before we go into agenda review, Maria, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I just want you to be aware that starting in November of 2021, the city auditor, the administration stopped sending to the city auditor the backup information to review payroll. As far as I remember, the city auditor always has been reviewing the payroll and with the backup documentation, and no documentation has been provided to the city auditor, no backup documentation has been provided to the city auditor since November of 2021. Hopefully, I received an email this afternoon from the HR director that a meeting will be taking place so we can move forward with this. But I just want to let you know that the city had a policy, some procedure in place that the city auditor should be reviewing for internal control, reviewing the payroll for the administration for the city. Also, we had to be mindful that the payroll is the largest expenses of the general fund that the city has. So I just hope that this matter get resolved as soon as possible. And if the administration want to change the payroll internal control that we had in place, they had to put it in writing, because I don't think we can just jump from one thing to another without not putting nothing in writing or not letting the city auditor know about it. What's the plan? What is the plan that they have moving forward? So I want to say thank you to everyone. I sent an email was sent to City Council this afternoon, and I just wanted you and the public to be aware of this. As I said, the payroll is the largest expenses of the general fund that the city has. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I did have a brief conversation with Abe this afternoon once I saw your email, and he did express that there were some internal concerns that he was working on that will clean that up. I'm hoping that will do just that. Now, I don't know when payroll is produced if the auditor has a final sign off on each batch. But yeah, I don't know how that works, Maria, but maybe there's a provision where something like this?
The internal control that the city have, which the outside auditor follow is in writing, and is stating that the city auditor should review the payroll given by the payroll administrator along with the backup documentation, and the city auditor is the paymaster of the payroll. So
Right.
this if they want to change the policies, that's okay, but we had to have in writing, and we have to make sure we following the internal control that we had in place. And there was never before any issue with the city auditor reviewing payroll. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so getting back to my question here, and maybe Jamar can help me, but when payroll is completed and we produce the checks, what is the sign-off process in that? Is it require the auditor sign off?
They send the payroll administrator, when they finalize the payroll, they print a report, they send it to the city auditor. We have the backup. It's the same thing that was sent to you in the email today. And they send it to the city auditor. The city auditor review if there is any adjustment that needs to be made according to the backup information that it received. And also we had to be mindful that some of the some of the positions are passed by some of the salary for some of the positions are approved by ordinance, and we had also to follow those requirements.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to resolve it here right now, but so you're reviewing it. Is the payroll, when it's produced, does it require your sign off before it can be generated?
To review it, yes, to review it according to the internal control.
A review and approve.
Well, yes, after review and there is any changes that need to be made, I will talk to the payroll administrator, and she will make the quarterly changing. Then she run payroll again. They send it to the accounting department. They put all the memo and all the journal entry. Then the city auditor also, and they reconcile your payroll. Then they send it to the city auditor and the accounting manager for final review and approve. So after all of that is done, then it's taken to the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department do the transfer. They had to transfer the money, and the money had to be transferred 3 days before the payday. And there is no history in the past that nobody has been getting paid because the city auditor has been holding the payroll.
All right, so we're going to have to. I don't know how then Treasury is producing payroll if it requires your approval. So I'm going to ask Jamar or Abe just to speak to this and what we're going to do to correct it, just to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Jeff.
Yeah, hold on a second. Who's this?
This is Ida, the Human Resource Director.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Abe and Jamar.
No
at this
problem.
point, and then Abe,
No
if they want to
problem.
bring you. All right.
To your point, Council President, yes, we've had several discussions on this today via email, and we will have a resolution to this sooner than later. There was a suggestion on a meeting, and that's going to take place very soon, so we can have this rectified. I do believe that there was a miscommunication at some point, but it's something that we feel could be fixed relatively quickly. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to the administration for setting up the meeting for February the 10th.
Okay. All right, so we'll wait to hear back from everybody on this. Council, I know there's a lot swirling around this. Is there the immediate question that we can resolve quickly? That's great. Otherwise, I'll open up for comments.
Jeff, this is Johanny.
It's being pursued. Go ahead, Don.
Just for the sake of clarity, can we understand the process? Maria, you said you were receiving reports up until November. Who do you receive reports from? What is the process?
From the pension coordinator, she run the payroll, she sent me the report, I review the report, there is any adjustment that had to be made because for whatever reason, I review the backup documentation, make sure, it's okay. Then I send it back to her. I say, Polly, payroll I send it to the pension administrator, I say payroll is okay. Then she run payroll. She send it to, then she send all the documentation to the accounting department, the accountant there. They reconcile payroll, they put all the memo and all the journal entry. Then they send it to the accounting manager and the city auditor, and we review it for final approval, and we sign it. After we give it back to the accountant in the accounting department, they take it to the treasury, and then they have to transfer the money. The money needs to be transferred 3 days before the payday.
So you mentioned a pension coordinator and a pension administrator. Do we
Pension
have both?
administrator.
I thought we only have one
Pension
coordinator.
administrator, I apologize for that,
Payroll.
pension administrator.
Maria, if you could, she means payroll administrator, counselor. Payroll.
Thank you. Thank you for
Payroll
the
administrator.
payroll administrator.
Yes.
Okay. And the payroll administrator is in the human resources department or in the finance department?
Human resources. Payroll administration is run out of the human resources office, counselor. I think Ida was trying to get a word in to explain the process from their end. Please, Ida.
Thank you, if I may. So back on July 14th, approximately, I sent an email trying to address this concerns that I have. I did send an email a little bit ago so we can see the whole picture. But I just want to explain, and it might be better if you look at your calendar as I'm speaking. We do forward and has not been an issue, and the administration does not want to change the process. It's just the process has to be a better process. So in November, the payroll backup didn't get forwarded, and I was informed on December 27th, hold on a second, December 27th, to go ahead until we agree, because we have to come up with like a memorandum Maria has a different perspective from her city auditing experience, and payroll has a different process. So we have to meet in the middle. And I think that's where the problem is. We're not met in the middle. So what happens is that there's no resolution. So now what we agreed to do is HR and city auditor is going to sit down with the city auditors and the administration along with the solicitor to come up with a solution. Now, I did send it. We did get an email on December 27th saying to give them the backup document. I didn't know she was not getting the backup document. She did not inform me. I'm not sure where that fell. However, because there's an agreement and there's an email back and forth stating that we're going to come up with a solution in writing, and I'm not trying to defend my payroll administrator. I just want to explain what happened. So my payroll administrator presumed that we're waiting for that memorandum of understanding or whatever the process is going to be, the new process, so to be able to give her the backup. She did provide her with all the payroll summaries because I got a copy of it. So I didn't know until today that I got an email from my the manager, the administration, stating that she has not received the backup from November. So I talked to my payroll administrator, and she said that she'll take responsibility because she was waiting for that memo of understanding. So that's what happened. But if you would look at your calendar currently, let's say we're gonna get paid on the 30th. We get paid on the 30th. So let me just quickly, just so you can get a quick understanding of the payroll. It's not as easy as one might think. So we get paid on the 30th, which most of us, we get the paycheck on the 28th. All the timesheets for the city, all 587 employees, are due to the human resource para-administrator on the 20th of this month. Now, HR needs 3 business days. So HR would need the 21st, the 24th, and the 25th to be able to process the payroll. The 26th, the 27th, 28th, it should be going to the city auditor. So the 28th, so we're missing a few more days that we need for our, because it goes from HR to the city auditor. City auditor comes to the finance, the accounting who process it, and then it goes to treasury. So we still short. We HR make sure we have 6 days, 3 for HR and 3 for the city auditor, which is what we have to come up to the solution, which has to be resolved because it's a little bit difficult to understand from the HR perspective. So we would need more days, but it's so we're running against the clock. We have 3 days for HR, 3 days for the city auditor, and then somewhere in there we have to forward it to accounting and forward it to treasury. So it's not that the administration wants to change the process. We just have to come up with a good resolution and work together.
Okay, yeah, so again.
Jeff, excuse me,
yeah,
Jeff. Excuse me, Jeff. In the past, I'm sorry,
go
I
ahead.
just want to
Go
say
ahead, Maria, but
something
I
quick.
hold on, Maria, I'm gonna give you that chance, but I want to avoid trying to phase out this process here over this meeting, but go ahead, I'll give you a minute or two.
No,
and then
I
we're
just
gonna-
want to say that there was never an issue before with payroll, so why is starting in November 2021? And that's my final
Okay,
say.
and, yeah, and.
Thank
and,
you.
Yeah, I'm gonna look to Jamar and Abe to get back to us and figure out. My biggest concern here, guys, is forgetting the timeline, that something's getting produced by Treasury and it hasn't got the auditor's approval. So we've got to make sure
That's
that
huge.
doesn't happen. Yeah, that doesn't happen. And I'm not saying anything went wrong. It sounds like there are some timing issues that we have to work out. But we have to, whatever it takes, I'll look to Abe and Jamar to get back to us and just give us an update. Is that fair, everybody?
Yep, I'll look into it and see what I can do to help Jeff.
Well, yeah, and find out how Treasury's producing a payroll file without the proper approvals. That's what I'm hearing. And I just want to make sure we're not doing that, because regardless of timelines, I mean, those check and balances have to be in place. And I don't know what the sign-offs look like. I don't know if they're handwritten, they're electronic, whatever the workflow is. Because that'll bang out the timing issue. If the approval wasn't there, this issue would have, if it would have been held up because the approval wasn't there, this issue would have been banged out already.
It's not the approval, it's not the city auditor reviewing the payroll, not having the backup documentation. They have been providing me the payroll report, but I don't have no backup documentation that I will be able to type payroll. That's my concern.
All right. Okay. All right. We'll wait to hear back from you guys.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on that?
Jeff, Johanny, so just a couple of things that I've identified while we're having this conversation. So one, all questions go to the managing director and then he defers, or because you keep referencing Jamar and Abe. So I just want to understand roles and responsibilities.
Well, Jamar and Abe are on the call. I'm looking towards Jamar and Abe because this is a finance issue at the end of the day. We're dealing with Treasury, so.
Okay, and then my second concern is how then accurate are salaries on the budget that was approved for this new year? If Maria hasn't received backup information and hasn't audited the process, I'm concerned now that there might be discrepancies in what this body approved for the current budget.
Jamar, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I don't have those concerns at all. I spoke with the compensation administrator about changes to the budget and salary. We went over that extensively about 2 weeks ago. Regarding the backup not being sent, I'll follow up on that tomorrow. I don't know anything about that.
All right. Okay, any additional questions? We'll look to hear back from Abe and Jamar.
Jeff, just one thing.
Maria.
I just
Yeah, go ahead.
want to thank Maria. I think she has been an exemplary auditor, and I just remind us all that she is the third branch of government, and it's really important that she speaks up with her concerns, just as for any of us in council or the mayor to speak up, because there are 9 of us who are elected officials and hold the public trust. And I appreciate Maria speaking up. Thank you.
Jeff, this
All
is
right.
Marcia.
Yeah.
Okay, and I also believe the checks and the balances are very important, and that's why it's important that Maria's role is independent. She can bring things to our attention. I think what we have to do is react in the scope that these are presented. these are, whenever you have a problem, you need to figure out what the solution is, what could have been done differently, if there's anything that needs to be improved, to be able to say that. But make sure we handle it in a professional way and we don't overreach what the implications might be. That if there are things that are not flowing the way they need to be, that's the administration's responsibility and they need to inform council what that plan of action is. If there are any financial discrepancies, which I don't think are being brought up here, that's for the auditor to let us know. But I don't believe it's prudent for us to jump to conclusions until we have all the information that we need. We know a time or a process wasn't followed, and that's what needs to be brought back to us, why it wasn't followed and how it's going to be followed in the future.
All right, are there any additional comments?
Yes, Jeff, this is Johanny. A couple of more things. So I'd like to ask our city solicitor if city council has the right to request an audit of salaries, infringements and things of the sort. And what is that process?
There are provisions, I don't have them in front of me. But you can look in the charter that council does have some ability to investigate certain things, which would basically be an audit. This has come up before in the past, and I can give a more detailed opinion on this issue, but there is some case law that would limit that to things that are within your discretion. So it's not, you can investigate anything, but to the extent that you approve payroll, you could look into that. And I just want to be very clear, other than a recent miscommunication, and I think Maria would even agree to this. I've had countless conversations with Maria, and I've provided her with independent counsel, and I've been working with him to resolve this in a way that both sides can agree that there's the documentation that Maria's requested is given. I unequivocally said that should have happened in December, and that will happen ASAP. So Maria will be provided with all of these documentations. Mike and I can discuss to what extent council can also do that review and how that can be done. And by the way, I defer to Mike on that. In fact, there's an argument that maybe your question should be directed to Mike. So I don't want to, if Mike wasn't here on the call with us, I probably would have deferred to him. So I'll turn it over to Mike if he wants to add to that.
Yes, you did, Fred. And you sent an email asking HR to provide me the backup the information. I never received it. So, thank you.
Just to clarify quickly,
ahead, Mike.
you are under section 210 permitted to do that, but it has to be by ordinance.
And just for clarity, again, obviously, I want to see the city successfully exit out of Act 47. So when I bring up these concerns is because I'm just keeping our city's best interest at hand. And I just want to make sure that we're taking the necessary steps to make sure that we're fiscally correct, right? I don't want us to ever go back to Act 47. So I just want to emphasize that to the body.
All right, any additional comments?
No. No.
All right, if there are no other comments, let's move on to our agenda review. That's going to be as follows. Hold on a second, please. All right. First item on our agenda this evening, of course, is the approval of our agenda and minutes. I'm sorry, before I get to that, we're going to have Milda Neves from Feet on the Street, correct? For an invocation?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. And then we do have a commendation this evening. Who's reading the commendation?
Johanny.
All right, Johanny, you have that prepared to read this evening, right?
Yes.
All right, and then we're going to go on to the approval of our agenda and minutes.
Public comment.
Public comment, sorry. Anybody scheduled for that this evening, Linda?
Yes, I have one scheduled to comment virtually.
Okay. And we'll see if they're on board. If they are, we'll make sure Donna reads our public comment guidelines, and then we're going to go on to the approval of our agenda and minutes. Primarily the consent agenda items. There's 3 of them this evening. All resolutions. The first one is ratifying the council policy and operations handbook. We just talked about that. Ratification of the policy agreement with DCTV. We just discussed that. And then the appointment of Kyle Zieber to the RATS. Is that the technical committee, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any questions about the appointment of Kyle to the RATS technical committee? For anybody not familiar with RATS, it's the Reading Area Transportation Study Group. That is the group that manages all the state and federal highway dollars for the region.
I think Jeff, it would be good to explain and put in a resolution that is to the technical committee, because Kyle's expertise and the expertise of public works folks is very important in his field to that committee. It's extremely important.
Right. Yep, we should spell that out. So if it doesn't read that, we can amend it to state that. Well, no, we're not going to be. What does the resolution say currently?
It just says to RATS.
All right, so then we're going to have to move that to resolutions so we can amend it so you're comfortable with it, okay?
I'll be happy to do that, and I appreciate Kyle's willingness to serve there. That's great.
All right, does anybody have any comments on the consent agenda items? No, right? So then we're going to have the administrative report. The mayor will not be with us this evening. We'll have Abe this evening.
That is correct.
And then the auditor, and then we do not have anything from our boards, authorities, and commissions. We'll go right on to ordinances for final passage. This first one, actually the first 2 have been requested by the administration to be tabled. The first one relevant to the downtown public-private partnership. The second one is relevant to the mayor's staff. If there's no objections to tabling those, I'm going to need somebody to make that motion during the meeting. And then we'll move on to the next ordinance is amending City Code Chapter 576, snow and ice emergency, introduced at the January 10th regular meeting. Are there any comments on that specific ordinance?
Could we please table that as well? As the ordinance was still in the edit phase, it's not been advertised yet.
All right, so we need to table that one as well. Let's go on to the next one. Number 8, 2022, authorizing the administration to write off the net unreimbursed cost allocations recorded between the general fund and the city's water fund, where the city's water fund was to reimburse the general fund a net amount of $157,636.48 will both be adjusted to 0. Tamar, did you want to give us a brief recap of that again, please?
Council President, this is similar to the transaction we did the same time last year, writing off stale interfund payables. At the time, we said there would be about 2.2 million of stale payables. We wrote off 2 million this time last year. This is the conclusion of that work done by the city controller.
All right, any comments or questions, anyone regarding that ordinance? All right, we will move on to the next ordinance, and that's going to be number 9-2022, amending the City Code Chapter 5, Part 202, General Provisions, adding third-class requirement for council members to be sworn into office within 14 days of the organization meeting. Any comments or questions regarding that ordinance? All right.
Organization or reorganization?
Organization.
It's technically called the organization meeting under the charter, but in reality, it's your reorganization meeting.
So that terminology is appropriate.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. right, we'll move on to the final ordinance for passage this evening, directing the Berks County Board of Elections to place a referendum question before city voters on the 2022 primary election ballot, which would amend the City of Reading Home Rule Charter by eliminating the requirement for the city's public works director to be a civil engineer. Any comments on that specific ordinance?
What was the ordinance?
What was the ordinance number? Is that what you're asking, Brianna?
Yeah.
10-2022. That's, it says F, bill number 10-2022. Okay. All right. All right. We're going to go through, there's two ordinances being introduced. I'll go through them. The first one is amending the city code chapter 180 entitled Construction Codes Part 8, entitled International Building Code section 802 entitled Amendments, letter J entitled International Building Fire Prevention Code, Board of Appeals, Article 2 entitled Membership, sections 2.3 entitled Members and 2.4 entitled Qualifications, by allowing the participation of HVAC, Electrical Examining Board, and Plumbing Board of Examiners to also serve on the International Building/Fire Board of Appeals. Somebody want to give us an overview of that? Is that you, Linda?
Yes. The Fire and Building Code of Appeals, the people appointed to those boards need a very specific amount of trades experience, and we've been having a difficult time attracting people. Currently, we only have a board of 4, and we have one person who's resigned for about 2 years, 3 years, still serving because we haven't replaced him. So in talking with one of the electrical examining board members who expressed an interest in also serving on this, I looked at the issue, talked with Michelle Mayfield, who works with the board, about our ability to amend the local code to allow that double service from sitting trades boards members. And she said that was okay. So she helped me draft the ordinance that will move to resolve our quorum problem.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions about that?
I just want to thank Linda for coming up with a workaround with that problem.
All right, any additional comments? Okay, if not, we will move on to the next ordinance for introduction. Amending Chapter 70 Personnel, Part 5, Leave, Vacations, and Holidays, Section 70-502 Holidays, letter A, by adding Juneteenth as attached. Linda, do you want to give us an explanation of this one?
Yes, this is an ordinance prepared by Shelley, adding that Juneteenth holiday, which was just declared by the mayor back in May, June of this year, adding that to our holiday list. That's also a holiday listed in the AFSCME collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, any comments on that one, anyone?
Jeff, Johanny here. So would that also be updated then in the employee, right? Is that in the employee handbook?
Yes.
Then,
Okay,
when can we expect an updated employee book or handbook?
Ada?
Yes, Councilwoman, we are currently working with the new employee handbook. I do have a scheduled meeting, I believe is for March 3rd, for the attorneys to meet and bless the new employee handbook. Once that's done, the administration will bless it and then forward to City Council for more blessings.
Oh, fantastic.
okay. Any additional questions or comments on that ordinance? All right, and then we'll move on to resolutions. They are, well, the first one's the appointment of Johanny, and the second one is the appointment of Linda, the city clerk. Then we have two reappointments and one appointment. First reappointment is Craig Brenizer to the Fire Civil Service Board. The second one's the appointment of Sarah Crothers, I hope I got that right, to the Environmental Advisory Council. And then the final resolution is the reappointment of Robert Conklin to the Planning Commission. Does anybody have any comments in any of the resolutions?
Johanna and I did the interviewing, all excellent candidates. Johanna, I don't know whether you have any comments?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I was between the video and the mute button. No, I concur. I agree. I think we, again, I appreciate when community members step up, especially when they're so well experienced, qualified, and still have the heart and desire to serve. So yes, agree with Marcia. I do, may I say something else regarding nominations and appointments? Just a heads up, there's still one vacancy on that.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to try to cover that next week. Linda and I did talk about a possible workaround, but I think we should cover that next week when everybody's here. So, all right, that's it for the agenda. Anybody have anything else for public discussion that we need to discuss before we recess and get ready for our business meeting?
Jeff,
Yeah.
I just had word from Pastor Nieves. She's had a family emergency. She needs to step away.
Okay, so anybody want to volunteer for this evening's opening prayer? Invocation?
Donna said she would.
I nominate Maria. She always is good at it. So I nominate
Yeah.
Maria.
Okay, Maria, you've been nominated. You're
I
not
agree.
allowed to. You're not allowed to reject the nomination. By the way, I'm only kidding. So, Maria, if you're willing to, that's fine. If not, we'll figure it out.
You want to
Anything?
do it, Johanny? This time? No? Okay. I will put a couple of words. I will be briefly.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee, Maria. Thank you.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Anything else before we leave this meeting and regroup? I guess we could that meeting's scheduled for what time? Right after this meeting, Linda, or 7 o'clock?
Right after, but at this point, it's going to be 7.
Yeah. All right. Let's regroup at 7 o'clock on our business meeting link. Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.